Brackley-How, Brackley-How-Shy, Brackley-How, Brackley-How-Shy, Brackley-How, Brackley-How-Shy, Brackley-How, Brackley-How-Shy, Rakal Kwadash. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakal Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles that taught me this truth. Peace and blessings to you brothers out there, you Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity. Excuse the construction happening. I want to start off by saying Baruch, reading, I believe it's called Baruch 2 and 30. For I knew that they would not hear me, the Israelites, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. So this whole lesson I'm going to be doing, it's going to be a few parts, 30-minute sections, is to help you Israelites remember yourselves. I'm going to be bringing other books that, Europeans and other nations who knew about the Israelites. I'm going to be bringing those books up, of course, the word up, and we're just going to dive straight in. Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live throughout the flood. He became the progenitor of, which is the father, of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. How can the biblical scholars say that Ham is the father of the dark races, but not the Negroes? The Negroes themselves are a dark race of people. What are they trying to keep secret? What the biblical scholars are trying to keep secret is that you Negroes are not African. You so-called Negroes are not African. There are only 4 nations, according to the Bible, that go back to African blood, which is what I just read to you. The Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. We don't descend from them. After much research, it was discovered that Africans and the so-called Negroes are 2 different types of people. George M. Fredrickson, Stanford professor, wrote a book called The Black Image in the White Mind. If you go to page 74 and 75, you'll find this. In the 1840s, Morton collaborated with George Art Gliddon, an Egyptologist, who provided him with mummy heads and information about the racial significance of the Egyptian tomb inscriptions. In Crania Egyptiaca, published in 1844, Morton pointed out that both cranial and archaeological evidence showed that the Egyptians were not Negroes. He figured out that the Africans that were slaves in Egypt were not Africans. He learned, when it's talking about enslaved in Egypt, it's going back to, I believe it was in Deuteronomy? No, or maybe it was in Genesis. Salakia. But the Egyptians had the Hebrew Israelites under, in slavery. I want to say, hold on, because I hate giving that type of information. I want to say it was in Deuteronomy. Or I think Deuteronomy starts when we were in the wilderness. So maybe it was in Numbers, maybe? I'm gonna get back on to yeah, so it was before Deuteronomy, I believe. Going back to the point though, anyone who has read the Bible knows that the Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians. I'm sorry, my mind has been all messed up today, man. It's just like, how captivity just puts depression on you. I'm trying to find where I was. Alright. He figured out that the Africans that were slaves in Egypt were not Africans. He learned that the skulls were two different types of skulls. He claims the characteristics were similar due to the thick lips and broad noses. But going back to the book, I believe the Black Image in White, or in Crania Egyptiaca, as apologist and colonizationist, had maintained and that in fact blacks had been relegated to the same servitude position in ancient Egypt as in modern America. So that's just a big hit on anyone who believes they're Egyptian. You know, niggas like Brother Polite, Young Pharaoh, you know, niggas like that just be trying to teach black people that we're Egyptian or whatever the fuck they be teaching. The shit going off. So what are the biblical scholars saying? You'll find out what they are saying is that you Negroes are the biblical Israelites. You're the same people who served in slavery in Egypt. You are the same exact people God, Yahweh, sent Moses to redeem under the hand of Pharaoh. Slavery is a reoccurring thing in the Bible. And when you read, you'll find out that the Israelites were stuck in it. We came out of Egypt as slaves, went down into the land of Israel. Then the Assyrians came and captured the land of Israel, then took us as slaves. If you go to 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 6, you'll read this. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Samaria, which is just us going into slavery. After serving slavery in Assyria, we went back to Israel. Then the Babylonians, modern-day Ethiopians, came and took us as slaves. 1 Chronicles 9:1. So all Israel were reckoned by genealogies. And behold, they were written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, who were carried away to Babylon for their transgressions. Those transgressions are us leaving the commandments. Remember, the only reason all this slavery happened to us is because we basically said, fuck Yahweh. That we just gonna do what we gonna do. We envy these other nations. Like, we want to be like them so bad when they wanted to be us so bad. Even to this day, you see that everybody wants to be this right here, so-called black man. It's like the world gravitates to the Israelites. Then we came out of the Babylonian captivity, went back to the land of Israel. Then the Persians came and took the Israelites and made us slaves again. Ezra 9:9, King James Version. For we were bondmen, yet our God Yahweh hath not forsaken us in our bondage, but hath extended mercy unto us in the sight of the kings of Persia. Once again, we got out of captivity, went back to Israel. Then the Greeks came and took us as slaves. 1 Maccabees, chapter 8, verse 18. And to entreat them that they would take the yoke from them, for they saw that the kingdom of the Grecians did oppress Israel with servitude. Just talking about slavery again. After we came out of the Greek captivity, we went back to the land of Israel and rebuilt the temple because the Greeks were sacrificing pig on the altar. Then the Romans came and had us during the time of Yahushua as slaves. We go to King James Version, Jeremiah 2:14. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? Jeremiah, after looking at our history of slavery, he was basically asking, like, are the Israelites just on earth just to be slaves? Because we keep going into it. You may be wondering, if we are the Israelites, how the fuck did we get to the west coast of Africa? Luke 21:24. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the destruction, therefore is near. Luke 21:21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst thereof depart out. A summary of what you just heard is this. When you see the Romans coming in, you better go up into the mountains. The mountains that they was talking about was the land of Africa. the Hamites' land. Why would we run to the Hamites? Because our skin color. There's a chance we could possibly blend in. The same place Mary and Joseph fled from Herod. Dr. Rudolph R. Windsor wrote a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu. Page 84 reads this. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million black Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Over 1 million of you Israelites fled into the land of Africa. The ones who didn't take heed of Yahushua's command got captured by the Romans and got took to Europe and sold into slavery and put in forms of servitude and thrown into lions' dens, which are you gladiators, the Israelites that were forced to be gladiators for people's entertainment. Back to the book, page 86. The pagan and the Romans attacked the Jews indiscriminately, but Jewish soldiers and the uninvolved peaceful population without mercy. As a result of this merciless attack, many Jews fled to those parts of northwest Africa known as Tunisia, Algeria. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Morocco, and there's another one that's hard to say. Mauretania. Mauretania. If y'all know how to say that. Many other Jews fled to areas where Romans did not have any Other Jews fled to areas where Romans did not have any jurisdiction. This was the region of the South, the Sahara Desert, and Sudan. Grazel says such is the explanation of how the Sahara Desert first acquired Jewish tribes toughened by a fighting tradition and possessed of physical characteristics, which they were calling black. Those of dark skin color, which is said still make them approximately very closely the original Jewish population of Palestine. So basically what I'm reading is that all these nations know who you are but you. That's why I read that first verse, Baruch 2:30, for I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. A stiff-necked people is like, you can look on any brothers who teach this truth. You can look at them preaching on the street. They'll be like, hey sister, do you know your nationality? Or hey brother, do you know who you are? And they'll just keep walking. I mean, they're just brain dead. All they want to learn about is money. Or where's the next thought that we can fuck? Or where's the next blunt we can hit? That's all niggas be thinking about. Alright, let me finish this verse. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves. And this is why you see all these Israelite camps coming up out of everywhere, all across the globe, is because we're starting to remember ourselves. Dr. Joseph J. Williams, Hebrewism of West Africa, page 227. Whatever may be thought of or less mythical traditions connected with the earliest Jews in North Africa, it is now practically an established fact that a Jewish nation, Jewish at least in faith and perhaps to an origin, long held sway south of the Sahara. Mark Avrum L. Hitch, professor of Judaic Studies, Encyclopedia. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading a whole nother word. Encyclopedia. It's like, come on, man. Like, my mind is all everywhere. You can't. I just gotta do more fasting or more praying or something, because, damn, man. Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora: Origins, Experience, Experiences and Culture, Volume 1, page 454. In later centuries, Jews are believed to have settled in Western Africa during the height of the Songhai, Mali, Ghana, and Kanem Borno Empire. According to accounts from explorers of the region, several powerful Jewish families of the Songhai Empire were of Jewish origin. Some accounts place West African Jewish communities in the Andu forest of Dahomey, south of Timbuktu. In the 1930s, these groups still maintain a Torah scroll written in Aramaic that has been burned in parchment with a hot iron instead of ink so it could not be changed. The reason they had it burned in iron is because basically other nations, Gentile nations, kept going and trying to erase all our history, fucking up all our shit, trying to make sure we didn't know who we were. In the 1930s, the historians went over there and still found Israelites over there, still practicing the Hebraic faith, still knowing who they were. The Israelites also had a Torah scroll written in Aramaic, ancient language, burned in hot iron. Dr. Rudolph R. Windsor, who wrote the book From Babylon to Timbuktu, if you go to page 90, it reads this. The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. They carried their culture, history, laws, and written records with them. The Jews made use of every opportunity. They were an industrious and skillful people. In the Jewish Ghanaian states were found kings, princes, governors, generals, secretaries, treasurers, revenue agents, judges, architects, engineers, doctors, historians, language interpreters, mathematicians, jewelers, sculptors, masons, carpenters, painters of art, goldsmith, leather workers, I already said, wait, did I say potters? Potters, armor makers, saddle makers, blacksmith, agriculturists, etc. So whoever told you that, you've always just been niggas running around with spears in your hand throwing them, all they were trying to do is brainwash you. Same reason why anyone who was in the school system, they only taught us from slavery and up, like slavery into now. They never taught us all this, who were we before slavery? The reason they call it Dark Ages is because we were ruling heavy in Russia, in Europe at that. We took over Europe. That's why they call it the Dark Ages. Remember, it's history, his story, not our story. In schools, you're going to be learning about the European story. That's why even though we know the Native Americans, over 7 million, over 7.7 million were slaughtered, they just said it was Thanksgiving. And now you niggas celebrate it. Psalms 82:6. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. I love throwing that up there because a lot of y'all just think y'all are niggas. Hold on. There was a punishment for us turning our back on our power, Yahweh, and his son, Yahweh Shai. Slovakia. No, we got 10 minutes before I cut this out. I have said, ye are gods, and all you are the children of the Most High, but ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. We got to turn back so we can get our true godlike bodies back. We got the God gene in us. We just got to hold on to our power, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, to get that actual, that oomph. And that's when all hell is going to break loose. Amos 3:2. Oh yeah, because a lot of people, a lot of you Jakes out there think, everyone's equal well, according to the Bible, we're just gonna read it. Amos 3:2. You only have I known of all the people, all Slakia. You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquity. So that's why other nations ain't going into slavery as hard as we did. But they will be going into slavery. Thus saith the Lord. You can read that in Revelations. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Mark Avram Elridge, professor of Judaic Studies, Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora, Origins, Experience, and Culture, Volume 1, page 454. The decline of the Jewish communities of the West Africa, Maghreb, most likely began with the influx of Arab invaders into the North Africa, starting in 640 CE and later into the West Africa in the 1300s and 1400 CE. So after we had established empires and communities on the west coast of Africa, after the 7th century, that's when Moab and his band of, his little army came down there to the west coast with the Quran in one hand and a sword in the other. They began to force Israelites into the nonsense religion Islam. That was the decline of the Hebraic community. That was the forefront of the beginning of our slave trade in this era. Now, that's why you see a lot of brothers who are in the religion Islam, because a lot of you brothers, I mean, just like Christianity, a lot of Jakes are in Christianity. Why? Because we got beat into it until we accepted it. Same thing, we got beat into this Islam bullshit. Joel 3:4, King James Version. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Tyre and Zidon are ancient Africans. Joel 3:4, KJV. Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Joel 3:5. Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temple my goodly pleasant things. What's that silver and gold he's talking about? That's you Israelites. You are the good, pleasant things. We are the apple of God's eye, of Yahweh's eye, the Most High's eye. We're the apple of it. So what happens if you poke someone's eye? They get aggravated, frustrated. Joel 3:6. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, the Europeans. Note, the Africans got together with the Grecians, Europeans, and started to sell the Israelites into slavery. Professor David Eltis and Professor David Richardson wrote a book called Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade, page 1. Both buyers, Europeans, and sellers, Africans, saw the people that were in captivity on the African coast as outsiders. So these Europeans and these Africans seen us Israelites who went onto the Africans' land, they seen us as outsiders. So of course they had no problem selling us. Why did the Africans see us as outsiders? Because we were some people who migrated on their land. They knew we weren't the same as them. The customs that we had, the way we moved in our skills, so they had no problem selling us into slavery. You would have to be insane to believe that the Africans were selling other Africans into slavery with the Europeans. With the Europeans. When the Europeans put that into textbooks, they were using technicalities. It would be no different if someone with the same mindset witnessed the African Americans selling the white Americans to the Chinese and wrote Americans were selling other Americans into slavery. It's still two different nations of people. You have the African Americans and the Caucasian Americans, but they're both Americans. It's still two different types, two different nations of people, but both Americans because of the region they are born in. What would be more on the correct side would be if they said native Africans were selling Israelites that were living in Africa. Would have been more correct. We got 5 minutes. Tudor, Parfit, professor of modern Jewish studies, wrote a book called Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. If you go to page 111, it reads this: there are both oral and written explanations that trace the origin of the Igbo tribe, and the most tantalizing is an occasion of the Igbo to the Hebrew race. This assumption is based on the fact that the Igbo culture has many similar traditions, customs like that of the Jews. Similar customs are observed in marriage negotiation, childbirth, and circumcision, restitution, attitude toward totem animals and taboos, as well as hospitality to others, especially to strangers, etc. The Igbo are therefore said to be the split and lost group of the tribe of Israel that refused to wander further northwest with Moses, but preferred going down southward. What we got? 20. All right, so 4 minutes left. All right, so I'm gonna pause it here, upload this video, and then we'll get back on the Igbo tribe. Barak Thayahal, Barak Thayashai, Barak Thayahal, Barak Thayashai, Barak Thayahal, Barak Thayashai, Kwadash. Stay tuned to part 2.